Number 6 on the list is his fellow countryman, surname Junior as well, Vinicius Junior, and he made both our lists. Keelan didn't quite make your list. He was once questioned by his fellow teammate Benzema if he was playing against him, but they went on to form the deadliest duo in Europe last season. 30 goal contributions in the league for Real Madrid last season. This season, he's not been as productive. 13 goal contributions in the Liga, but he's still only 22 years of age. There's been a lot of debate about him in terms of where he ranks in the wingers, young wingers in particular, Kvara. He's been compared to Saka, he's compared to Rashford, who's obviously a bit older. Even Foden he's been compared to.
He's clear of all of them.
Clear of all of them. Fairs, is he clear of other youngsters such as Pedri, Bellingham? Do you think he's, you know, in terms of his age bracket, the best, yeah?
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah, baller.
I mean, the debate's only come around this season because he's not having his greatest season, but again, obviously, he's getting kicked every week. He's getting racial abuse every week. Like, it's hard for a young man to take something like that every single week and then expect him to put up goals and assists. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
He's a human being. Still doing it in the Champions League.
Yeah, great against Liverpool.
It brought him back in it against Liverpool. If that goal doesn't go in, the makeup of the game is completely different. Steps up in the big moments.
Yeah.
Had some good games for Brazil in the World Cup as well. And yeah, I think we forget how young he is because of what he's done already.
Yeah, he had a really quick rise, man, because
he did.
He was for a bit looking like a bit of a flop. Because obviously the price tag Real Madrid bought him for, Ronaldo just left, and you know he's taking the place on left wing, getting like 2 or 3 goals last season. Wow, what a season! Brazil as well, he's looking good for them in the World Cup. Above Neymar. And you know what? I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair at the moment.
I think, you know, this is where I will hear your point a bit, Keelan. I think Vinicius has the right blend of being a team player and being an individual player as well. We saw that last season with his partnership with Benzema. But this is what I mean about having someone above you who's you have that respect for. He has that respect for Benzema, so he's not, in my opinion, gonna, you know, be trying too much on the pitch. If he moves to another club where he's the main guy, it might happen. But yeah, top 10, 6th on the list, best winger on the list. I think you have to say that's fair.
I think it helps him that Benzema has got a wealth of experience as well, and I think Benzema's used to being the guy who is second fiddle to Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So he understands the dynamic of sometimes you have to just work for the guy who's older than you.
Yeah.
For them to be productive. That's just the way it works, especially at a super club like Real Madrid. And now I think Benzema, that influence is rubbing off on Vinicius. It's kind of like, well, we'll let Benzema have the plaudits, your time will come, young man.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, at the moment, he's little bro. Benzema was once little brother, now he's big brother.
So who knows where he's going to be? He might become big brother to Rodrigo in years to come.
Might become big brother to Saka.
No way. No way. Keelan, Vinicius at number 6.
So did you say that's highest winger in the list?
Oh no, he's like.
Oh, so I thought
he's not the highest winger.
Okay, yeah,
cool,
but
cool. We're talking about wingers, like he's the highest.
Yeah. So he wasn't in my list, just because sort of when he did sort of cross my mind, I almost saw that. Like I did think from the appearance of his performances in the Liga, he was having quite a sort of poor season this year. Obviously, he was really good against Liverpool, and it was sort of important in that leg. But I think so last year his numbers are incredible, but I think I wouldn't say he was the reason Real Madrid won the Champions League. Like that whole, everyone sort of done their part. Like guys like Rodrigo were doing madnesses as well. So I think you say with regards to coming, I just didn't think he had enough in the bank for me to make it to the top 10. And I almost saw sort of with like Saka and Kvaratskhelia, almost like sort of they've sort of flipped season, or like Saka especially, they've kind of had like reverse seasons this year. So just because sort of Saka's was more on the recent side, I sort of opted sort of for him instead. But sort of similar players in terms of like effectiveness.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Saka and Vinicius is an interesting one, man. I think right now the reason why Vinicius edged it over Saka for me is just 1v1. Vinicius is the best in the world, I think, at the moment. I know Trent's not the best right back in the world in terms of defensively, but the aura he was stepping to Trent with in them games, like, it was crazy, man. Like, every time he got the ball, just like, I'm going to take you on. And that's what I love in players the most. That's why I rate Mbappe so much. Messi in his prime. Number 6 for Vinicius Junior. I think that's fair. That's fair. Moving on to number 5. Now I think this might cause a bit of debate. I don't think anyone's had a better debut season than this player in recent history. Anyway, 41 goals, 6 hat tricks for Man City this season. Probably the best goal scorer in the world. One of the best. I haven't seen many better goal scorers than him, apart from maybe Ronaldo, Messi. Erling Braut Haaland at number 5. Keelan, you had him at second. I had him 4th. I think Louie had him 5th. I might have had him 5th as well. Actually, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna check where I had him.
But yeah, what I think with Haaland is that he has certain things against him at the moment, and I hate to say it.
I had him 4th.
And then 4th, fairs. One thing I think he's got against him at the moment is, and it might be a detriment throughout his career, unfortunately, is his nationality. Because if he was French, if he was Brazilian, if he was even English, which, he could play for England, I think.
He could have. He was born in England.
No one's calling him a robot if he's French.
No one's probably calling him a robot. But he's actually going to play in major tournaments. He wasn't at the World Cup last World Cup. And imagine he was at the World Cup, right? He could have won the Ballon d'Or genuinely if he was like at France, scored all them goals, got to the final. 197 goals in 237 games so far in his career. Phenom. Keelan, do you think 5th is too low for Haaland?
Yeah, I think it is too low. Like, the guy is literally on course to match some of the best seasons Ronaldo and Messi have had. I get like he's sitting second in the table, which isn't really sort of helping his case. In which sort of in doing this video, like in terms of trophies, he hasn't won anything yet. So that could be very different by the end of this season. But I get he's almost somewhat similar to Kane as it stands, because he hasn't won anything really in his career. I still think 5th's harsh. Like, literally joke of a football player. Broke sort of multiple Premier League stats in his first year, which he'll continue to do so. And just I feel a lot of people sort of try hate on him. Obviously, like you've been there before, but like sort of retracted on that a bit. But now the guy just genuinely is as good as any other striker most, like, as he does what a striker does. Like, most strikers don't carry the ball far and dribble past loads of players and sort of weave in between defenders. They are a lot of the best strikers, they are take one touch and score. And he's very clinical at that. And his ability to generate power, his speeds, his effectiveness, he just scores with ease. And I don't think that's stopping anytime soon. Like,
interestingly though, if he was still at Dortmund, he was putting up these numbers, right? Would you have him at second?
I wouldn't have had him at second, but I was a big fan of him at Dortmund. I wouldn't. But I guess it's a bit more noticeable. But I do think at Dortmund, like, he was only there 2 years, 2.5 years or so, and then he had sort of a few injuries within that. So I think, like, he could have easily, Dortmund could have easily been insane this season. I don't think it was a thing that, like, he was at Dortmund and didn't really do much. I just don't think he was there for that long, and he was quite a young player, and that big season was brewing. And then obviously just coming at Man City, it happened to happen. But he's had the big games against PSG at Dortmund that I can remember and stuff, getting clowned by Mbappe and that, like, for his celebration. But probably not if he didn't, but he has transferred.
I mean, the reason I asked that obviously is because Haaland currently is second with Man City, still in the FA Cup, still in the Champions League. As much as there's a possibility he can win a treble with Man City this season, there's actually a possibility he can be trophyless as well with Man City this season. If Man City go trophyless, for me, it's not a great look. It's not a great look because
it would have proven that they've been worse this season, and they've only lost their backup striker and the backup left back
and their winger Sterling, their left winger.
Yeah, but he was a backup winger as well last year.
Rotation winger.
Rotation.
All their wingers are rotation.
Yeah,
well, Moran started a lot last year, but they only lost like fringe players. It wasn't like they lost a De Bruyne or like a Bernardo Silva or Rodri or Ruben Dias, although he has been out for a large part of the season. And I feel like it's kind of like Ronaldo when he was at United. Like, everyone else's numbers have dropped off, Foden's not been as good this season. Mahrez has not been as good this season. Grealish has benefited. He's been better this season. Bernardo Silva's not been as great this season. We've seen De Bruyne have to come in and out of the team because that dynamic sometimes doesn't work. We've seen Cancelo. He wasn't as good this season.
He's not there.
Well, yeah, he's not there anymore. We've seen a lot of things. We've now seen Pep having to play 4 centre backs in Champions League games because he feels like that gives him more control. But that gives him more control because Haaland's not going to help him get control. Haaland's going to help him score goals. So they have to have the 4 centre backs. So then they can, it's. I think Pep knows himself that he's having to adapt his style of play to be able to get the best out of Haaland.
Yeah.
But is getting the best out of Haaland actually helping the team, or is the team helping them get the best out of Haaland rather than the other way around?
Yeah.
And I think if you look at football from like if you look at it from like a simple A plus B equals C perspective, you say Haaland scores all the goals, he's the best player in that team, he deserves to be so high up in this list. Whereas if you actually think about it from the level I've just broke it down on, you can see there are things, I'm not saying it's all entirely Haaland's fault, but there are things you have to look at and consider, and like the proof's in the pudding, man. They're second place. They're second place to an Arsenal team who are an emerging force this year. It's not like it's a Liverpool team who have been knocking at the door for 3-4 years. It's not like it's someone who's spent £400 million like a Chelsea. It's not like they've been warmed by like a nation state.
Yeah.
It's an Arsenal team who haven't spent that much, have a lot of young players, and Haaland has been their top goal scorer, but for me it's affected the team not to like a point where he's a detriment, but to a point where they've had to adapt, and I don't think it suits them at this moment in time to adapt to getting the best out of him.
Yeah.
But they don't really have a choice, to be honest.
Yeah, it remains to be seen for me. If City go on to win things this season, Haaland will be a bit higher on my list because that will mean that they've both merged styles and they've worked. For me this season so far, until recently, until the last few games, I'll say maybe around about the Arsenal game, Arsenal City was where I think it started to really click in terms of City and Haaland. Before that,
but even,
I don't know.
Even that game, they had like 37% possession. That
Yeah,
was a smash and grab win for them.
Smash and grab win, but they won,
Yeah.
There's been games in the past for City where they've had a lot of the ball and not
It's
won.
not typical City, though.
It's not typical City.
It's not typical Guardiola either.
But what if not being typical City, not being typical Guardiola gets them a Champions League? That'll be...
I think that's what Pep's thinking is.
Yeah.
I think that is what Pep's thinking is. I think his thinking is, I've done this overcomplication thing before. How about I just get someone who scores 50 goals? More than likely is one of those 50 goals is going to be in a Champions League final and he might win me it.
Yeah, knockout football especially, you favour this up.
He will suit knockout
suits
football.
it, you know.
He will.
Just like how Ronaldo did. But Ronaldo, obviously, if you see his league campaigns, it wasn't as strong as Messi's. Haaland at 5th, I think, is fair. So to answer the question that I said in the start of this video, no, he's not quite... It's not quite a rivalry yet because he's not second on this list. But for years to come, that does seem to be a rivalry, him versus Mbappe, who we will touch on a bit later on. But in 5th place, Erling Haaland, and joining him in 4th is his fellow teammate, Kevin De Bruyne. The highest ranked midfielder in this list, the assist king, 21 assists in all competition this season, 3 times in a row he's been the FIFA Pro 11, 4 consecutive team of the seasons. Keelan, he was on your list, you had him 3rd. He was on my list, I had him 4th. Louie, where was he on your list?
Wasn't on my list.
He wasn't on your list. You said the other day he doesn't move you. What is it about Macaulay Culkin that like doesn't move you?
If you watch City this season,
Yeah.
the reason Pep's dropped him in a lot of games is low key. Yeah, he actually thrives on transitions.
Yeah.
He thrives a lot on and this is why I mentioned him and Bruno Fernandes being very similar. No, but this is the same thing as me saying Saka and Messi stylistically are similar. De Bruyne is obviously levels to Bruno Fernandes, but in terms of a game state that suits them, it suits both of them more if they can have a runner in behind and they've got bare space to do these crazy passes. Because De Bruyne, how many games have we seen, especially in big games, where City have dominated the ball and he's not done anything? Real Madrid in the Champions League last year, for Belgium in the World Cup.
Yeah.
For Belgium in the Euros previously to that as well. His best spell for Belgium was when he was playing as a centre forward and Lukaku was out on the right.
Okay, yeah. But with KDB, right, you always say this about the big games being dropped and him not being there, him suiting transitional football, but City have been playing possession football for 5-6 years now, and City have been successful in it, and KDB's been player of the season, I think, twice in the season. For me, he's a forward, not a midfield player. He's someone he operates best in that right half space where Walker tucks in, and then De Bruyne's, he's kind of like a right winger rather than a midfield player. He's best getting that ball in the final third on that right half space and whipping the ball into the box. That's where he's best at. He's not best at getting the ball, carrying it. He's not best at doing these little 1-2s. He's not someone who's going to pick out like these short passes. He's someone who, in the final third, he's going to pick the right pass, and he's going to make that right pass 9 times out of 10 in the final third. That's what he is for me. And I probably was harsh not having him in my list, but for me this season he's not been that great, man. Yeah,
he's not been, and even last season, like there was games where I didn't think he was that great.
Yeah, 21 assists for all comps, 13 in the league, still got the most assists in the Prem. There's no better assister in world football than KDB. If we think assists is a fairly important part of football nowadays, because back in the day we didn't really, but now we do think it is. Top 10 surely.
But he's assisting Haaland.
Yeah, but last season he was assisting Jesus, and
who is your?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm literally just saying he assists different players.
I get what you mean. But for me, with KDB, and I've seen a few City fans now a few prevalent City fans on Twitter saying that maybe the other three midfielders right now are more pivotal than what he is.
Yeah, I always hear this, man.
But I'm seeing a lot of.
It's just not true, bro.
I'm seeing a lot of City fans saying that it might be best for him to play as like a right winger.
Yeah.
At the moment, and then Gundogan, Bernardo, and Rodri playing in midfield because they're more technically secure with the ball. So it's about this thing with control, and Pep has tried that against. Was it against Leipzig, or was it who? Where was it against? Where he played 4 midfielders, but KDB was more out to the right. And then they had Haaland and Alvarez. You know,
I mean,
it's even Pep now, who is the greatest manager we've seen in the Premier League, is starting to see this guy in midfield, especially with Haaland in there, is becoming a bit of a detriment because neither of them are that great at keeping the ball. Whereas the other 3 midfielders, Gundogan, Bernardo, and Rodri, rarely ever lose it.
Yeah, they don't. I don't know though, man. I think. There's a lot of great stuff on Twitter. There's a lot of great stuff on the internet, but I don't like the KDB narrative on the internet. I don't know where it's come from. I think it's come from a large section of United fans, if I'm honest, man.
I disagree.
Ever since Bruno's come in as well, there's this narrative about KDB, bro, that he's mad wasteful, that he just spams crosses, and I think it's so overstated, man. How can you do it to the point, right, where you're the best player in the league, right? Facts. There's not a better player in the Prem than KDB, probably not.
I probably agree.
And you're winning. In terms of being
effective, yeah.
Bro, man's in the team that's getting 90 points every season.
He is, and I think he's so effective because the others around him, especially before this season, did not lose the ball. So it's easier for him to be able to put these crosses in the box, to be able to make these passes where, for me. Right, and this isn't me saying Bruno Fernandes is as good as KDB. He's not. KDB is much better. But for me, if you put KDB in that Man United team, it's the exact same as Bruno Fernandes.
No.
Yeah, but what's that mean?
No, but it's not even the same, bro.
Results are a lot better.
I'm not saying it
Well, he's better than him.
No,
I'm not saying it means
You're
anything.
saying stuff like he thrives on transition. Like, that's his role. Like,
it's not his role, though. It's not his role.
It is his role. He was a cam. He was a central attacking midfielder. And
he wasn't really, though, was he?
Moved, sort of created a new position.
How can he be a cam in a 4-3-3?
He used to play
like Odegaard's like pretty much like our creator.
Yeah, he used to play forward.
Odegaard is also
a lot more.
Yeah, but he's our playmaker. Just
like of course, De Bruyne's a forward, and like for years people were talking about how he was being played too deep. But that's his position, and he does it very well.
But this is what I'm saying, and he's effective in that. He's very effective in that position. But
you're saying it like it's a bad thing.
But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But you have to ask yourself why Pep has opted to go against him But previously, he wasn't being rotated. Since Haaland's come, suddenly KDB's starting to get rotated now. Before he was like the first name on the
Man City team's been rotated for the whole.
No, they haven't.
Like, Pep Roulette's been in existence.
Rodri doesn't get rotated.
That's kind of it. Rodri's the only one.
Bernardo Silva doesn't get rotated.
Bernardo Silva gets rotated all the
He doesn't.
time.
He plays every single game.
Last year,
Bernardo Silva plays.
He plays right wing sometimes. He plays. Yeah, that's the thing. He plays right wing some games. He plays centre mid some games. Bro.
Yeah, Bernardo Silva plays every single game, and more recently, Gundogan's been playing every single game.
Speak to anyone with fantasy football, and they'll tell you that Pep doesn't have a consistent 11 because
he doesn't have a consistent 11. But there are, when everyone's fit, there are certain players who start in the important games.
I don't say Rodri and Haaland, the guaranteed starters.
Haaland, Bernardo Silva. In the big games as well, Gundogan starts every single big game. You can't name me a big game in the last 3 years for Man City where Gundogan hasn't started. He starts every single big game.
Can.
You probably can't.
Probably can.
Gundogan plays every single big game. Ruben Diaz, when he's fit, plays every single game.
No,
I swear, Gundogan had to come off the bench, by the way, against Villa, so that's not true.
Against Villa?
What, the biggest game of the season last season? That won them the league.
Against Aston Villa.
Or is that not a big game, bro? Is that not a big game?
Hey,
we're not going to debate. We're not going to debate if that's a big game or what. It's obviously a big game. Everyone knows that.
It's neither here nor there. When they play against a team where they need to have more control, they need to dominate the ball. Gundogan plays every single game. When it's against Arsenal or United or Liverpool, Gundogan plays every single game. Bernardo Silva plays every single game.
Same with KDB.
Haaland plays every single game.
KDB is the same, really.
The only ones who get rotated are the wingers, sometimes the centre backs, sometimes the full backs, and KDB. This season anyway. Bernardo Silva doesn't get rotated. Rodri doesn't get rotated. Haaland doesn't get rotated. Kyle Walker starts every game he's available for. And Ruben Diaz starts every game he's available for.
Tottenham West, where Rico Lewis was playing ahead of Kyle Walker. I swear.
Kyle Walker was injured.
Oh, fair. Anyway, KDB number 4. I think that's fair. I do think it's crazy him not in your top 10. I'll be real.
He probably should have been in my top 10. I don't know. But him and Neymar, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have had Saka in there. Maybe I should have had KDB in there. Maybe I shouldn't have had Kvaratskhelia in there. Maybe I should have had Neymar in there. Maybe I should have had Salah in there. But listen, man, my list is 10 people, not 14. So I'm happy with the list, bro.
And number 3 in the list, the current holder of the Ballon d'Or, and I think it's time we pay him true homage, Karim Benzema, one of the most underrated players for a long time. I didn't rate him as much as I probably should have until much recently, but I do think he has also stepped up his game a lot in the more recent years. Real Madrid's second all-time top scorer, 342 goals.
Crazy.
164 assists for Real Madrid, the most ever for Real Madrid.
Crazy, I didn't even know this.
Crazy, innit?
And I love this guy, I didn't even know this.
44 goals last season, a hand in 49% of Real Madrid's league goals last season. Back-to-back hat-tricks against PSG and Chelsea. 15 goals in Champions League last season. The joint third best scoring season for a player in the Champions League ever. And he's still carrying on this season. 19 goals, all competitions, scored in both legs against Liverpool. Yeah, he is the highest number 9 in this list. Traditional number 9s, he's the highest. He's not as prolific as Haaland, no. But I think it is fair, personally, to have him over Haaland because every facet of the game, Benzema is top at. He's not got really that much flaws at the moment in his game. You could have said maybe goals was his flaw, but you could have said he was sacrificing himself for Ronaldo previously.
He's getting that clutch gene now as well, more recently.
Absolutely. Big game player. Who knows? He probably would have got the best award if he played for France and had a good tournament. But he doesn't quite work as well for France as Giroud does for whatever reason. But Benzema number 3, Louie, fair?
Definitely fair. Definitely fair. I think he is so good, as you say, every facet of the game, whether that's dropping deep and linking up play, whether that's scoring, whether that's dribbling, whether that's, he's just so good at everything. And he is, that Champions League campaign last year is an all-timer Champions League campaign. When you think about the teams they play, PSG, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, that's as tough a run as it gets, and he was effective in every single one of those games. As you mentioned, back-to-back hat-tricks. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, and brace against Man City, I think.
Yeah.
Both legs.
And I watched that campaign, and at times I was just bewildered because I always rated him. I always thought he was excellent. I didn't know he was that good as he showed last year.
I didn't know either. Personally, I didn't know that either. And he was cooking since Ronaldo's gone. He's slowly been cooking, and last season was just the absolute peak of that.
It's another debate about Ronaldo, you know.
Another debate about Ronaldo. Just remember something about Ronaldo. He's actually not. No votes for Ronaldo in this list. But
yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised Ryan or someone. Did Ryan give a list?
Nah, he didn't, to be fair.
So he probably would have been like third or something.
Exactly, yeah. But Keelan, Benzema for you, third, fair?
At the moment, yeah, I guess some.
What's your reservations? You've clearly got some reservations at the moment about Benzema.
My reservations are like with regard to how I'm now perceiving this list, based on what I can gather from you guys doing it. Last year in the Champions League, absolutely all-timer campaign, crazy campaign.
Yeah.
I don't think that campaign could have possibly been done any better. The amount of hat-tricks he got, the teams they've played, there was not a single easy game. Fair play to him. But then I think with regards to like this year, I'm not sure if he's kept anything close to that this year. And then it was one of those ones where if I actually thought that he was a bit more consistent and a good player before, before that campaign last year, I wouldn't have him. Yeah, I'd have him very low in my sort of players from the sort of generation. I know he's had that one great season.
5 Champions Leagues.
I don't think one great season means that he was consistently world class for 10 years. That he was world class for 1 year, but it doesn't just mean everything before. He was world class during that time. So I think if he had a bit more in the bank for me, I'd understand sort of putting him there. But for me, I do think he's only really had that one sort of season.
What is it about our list that you're not quite getting? Because Benzema is.
I'm feeling like this list would have looked the exact same if it was done last year. And that's my problem with it.
He's the current Ballon d'Or holder, though.
Huh?
So he's the current Ballon d'Or holder. So he's currently, in terms of...
Yeah, so that's where we probably not filmed this at the best time. But I feel like just if you'd done that list, if you'd done it exactly a year ago, I don't think it would look that different.
I wouldn't have Saka.
That's my issue with the list.
I wouldn't have Saka. I wouldn't have Kvaratskhelia. I wouldn't have Osimhen.
I'm talking about how this list is averaged out. Like none of all those guys were like 7 of my players didn't make the actual top 10.
This is what I say about the best player in the world. For me, the man who I had at number 1 is going to be the best player in the world until he decides to call it a day.
Like if you're actually saying that and believing it, it's just a bit boring. But I just think for Benzema, he's not done. I don't think he's been. Yeah, I don't think he has enough in the bank based on him being okay this season.
But who has more in the bank than him? That is on barring maybe Messi and Mbappe.
And maybe Lewandowski.
Like for France, like, it's hard to ignore watching France go to a World Cup and Giroud starting ahead of him.
Yeah.
Would
like the same reason you said about
Haaland didn't go to a World Cup.
You said about like Haaland not being there. Benzema wasn't there.
Yeah, Benzema was injured. Benzema was injured.
Yeah, Benzema
was injured.
Benzema was injured.
It's also to be noted. I know it's not relevant in terms of footballer, but we all know the stories about Benzema. He's obviously clearly not someone who's easy to get along with, especially for a manager. Deschamps has his favourites. It wouldn't surprise me if he was English, if Southgate had problems with him. You know, he's had these things off the pitch. So maybe Deschamps felt that even if the injury wasn't as bad as perceived, maybe he felt that he was going to have a negative impact on the team because of his personality, not with him as a footballer. Whereas it's the opposite for Giroud. He, in terms of personality, is probably going to have a positive effect on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably part of the reason why Benzema has never lit it alight for France, because he's had obviously the whole revenge porn stuff. He's had the just Google Benzema 15. He's had all sorts of stuff going on. Maybe there's the whole thing about for France he might be a detriment to the camp, and we all know France have had problems in the past with sour camps at World Cups, so maybe that's why he's not said it like for France. Whereas with Real Madrid it's different. You're at Real Madrid, everyone's got an ego, and they always have managers who manage egos well. They had Ancelotti who managed egos well. They had Zidane who managed egos well. They had Mourinho who was the master at managing egos. So you know, I think it's different for Madrid than it is for France, and maybe off the pitch and impact on the camp is why Benzema wasn't as good for France as perhaps some other players were.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a factor. I mean, 8 years I think he was banned for France.
The French are weird, crazy, man. But the French are weird. There's always something going on.
Their Snapchats are jokes.
Yeah, there's always something going on with the French national team, bro. Yeah. There's always some sort of scandal going on.
Yeah, I know. It's always something. Never clean with them. But I don't know, man.
They're all nut jobs as well, man.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know how Benzema third. I'll be real. I hear a lot of things, Keelan.
Yeah.
I don't know how Benzema third is that brazy, bro. When you've had the exceptional campaign he had, right, and he's on course possibly to do it again. He scored 2 goals against.
And as Dodzi said, Real Madrid's second all-time top goal scorer and top all-time assist player.
And of course, that's not today.
For Real Madrid.
But in terms of today, number 9s, who's overtaken him? I don't think any has. There was a debate between him and Kane for a while. You can argue who's better.
It's not a debate, fam.
But I don't know. Benzema for me, I think I had him second. Man.
I had him third.
But yeah, what a player, man. For me, blossoming as he gets older, like fine wine. Any more words on Benzema, or shall I move on to number 2?
Yeah, go on to number 2.
Number 2 on the list. Ooh, crunch time. Crunch time.
I know who it's gonna be, but it's not gonna be who I put first.
He made everyone's list apart from one person sitting in this room. He is the current holder of the FIFA Best Award. He just reached 100 goals for Argentina, but according to some in this room, he's not their best player. He's only the 3rd ever player to get 100 goals for his country. 56 goal contributions for, if you take in Argentina as well, in 2022.
Crazy.
Currently on 23 goal contribution in the league for 26 actually in the league for PSG. 13 goals, 13 assists.
In 19 games.
Yeah, his name is Lionel
Andres
Messi, who made number 1 in our all-time players list at 35 years of age. Though he is the 2nd best Streets Won't Forget podcast player in our current top 10. Louie, we'll start with the positives. Lionel Messi, number 2. You had him at number 1.
Yeah, I had him at number 1. And still number 1.
Okay.
Still the GOAT. He didn't think this man could mesmerise me anymore, and then he went and had the World Cup campaign he did. Keelan will say about 2 non-penalty goals, but actually watch football, bro. Like, when you watch him on the pitch in that World Cup, he was fucking unbelievable. He was so good. I don't know if you could pull up the average SOF score rating for that World Cup. I guarantee it's about 8.9, 9.1, something like that. He was ridiculous. Every game he was having 3 or 4 key passes. He was unbelievable. Alvarez would not have had 5 goals if Messi was not there. He carried his team when they needed him most. In the final, he stepped up. Listen, take a penalty in the World Cup for your country. You know, you say about earlier, Kane scored his first one and missed the second one. Messi had to do the exact same thing in a quarter-final when his team had come from 2-0 up to 2-2. There's no bigger pressure than that. He stepped up, scored the first penalty, stepped up in the shootout, scored the second penalty. That takes some huge bollocks. The assist for Alvarez was probably the best assist I've ever seen at a World Cup, especially at that stage in the semi-final of a World Cup.
Great assist, yeah. That
was a fantastic assist. He was just ridiculous. Again, when his country needed him against Mexico, Argentina could not... He had 3 men on him that whole game against Mexico. We've seen it with our own eyes. Somehow finds space, scores from 18 yards out, drags his country through in a game they needed to. If they did not win that game, there's going to be the same narrative again. Oh, Messi can't do it for Argentina, blah, blah, blah. He steps up in that game, he scores, steps up, scores 2 in the final. He scored in every single... He's the first player ever to... I believe, you can double check this, first player ever to score in every single knockout round of a World Cup.
Crazy. What a World Cup he had, and that probably got him the FIFA Best Award. Messi, unbelievable player throughout the years. However, let's talk on certain things.
Still got more goals and assists and appearances this year as well.
Yep.
So the numbers haven't dropped off.
GA.
They've dropped off from typical Messi.
We combine GA for him now. It used to be goals, but now it's GA, which is still remarkable.
He plays deeper than what he does. So what he did. So
okay.
If we take the GA into account for someone like De Bruyne, you have to take it into account for someone like Messi as well.
Elephant in the room time. He has not got to a Champions League final since 2015. He's joined PSG, the richest club in the world, all the money, all the resources. He's got Neymar with him now, and he has not progressed past the round of 16 in the Champions League for the last 2 years.
He's also got the man who's number 1 in this list.
Yeah, but he's reached the final of PSG before in the Champions League.
What a trophy.
Messi, second on the list. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking it's the same guy. World Cup. He was sort of, you noticed him a lot, but I don't think he was crazy like that. Hence why, if you take penalties away from it, like out of all those penalties he scored, 5 pens, he didn't earn any of them.
Yes, he did.
Huh? He didn't.
He did.
He didn't. I can tell you.
He got punched in the face by Szczesny and that won the penalty against Poland.
He did not win a penalty. I can guarantee you.
Dodzi, do you remember this? When Szczesny punched him in the face?
Again, I was actually shout travellers. I was working.
Szczesny came through, punched Messi. They got the penalty. Messi scored the penalty. I remember it clear as day. He did win the penalty.
Yeah,
Messi got 4 pens. Just to clarify, he scored 4 pens in the World Cup.
Scored 4 pens.
I think just his impact away from those goals is quite minimal, and Alvarez actually does exceed him on that. And I just think, he's.
So you're saying,
this is the same guy that Ballon d'Or in October. He wasn't top 30.
Can I genuinely?
And no one was really saying anything.
No, can I honestly just call you up on that? So you're saying Alvarez, in terms of his impact on the pitch, had more impact than Messi did for Argentina in that World Cup? That's bullshit, bro. I'm sorry. That is.
I get there was this whole
crazy.
Messi was a focal point, and that takes a certain responsibility.
He was the best player in the competition by some distance. Whether he was and Mbappe, them two. But Mbappe's was one game did it.
Yeah,
put in there. But Messi across the whole tournament was ridiculous. Was so good. In that Netherlands game and that Croatia game, he was ridiculous. It was like watching, in terms of creativity, it was like Ozil in his best Real Madrid days in terms of creativity. He was ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll give him that, Messi, and he produced those 2 games. The assist for I can't remember who scored the first goal against Netherlands, but that was a crazy assist, and obviously the assist.
I think that was Alvarez. The one where he put it through 2 players' legs.
That pass.
There's not a player in the world who can do that other than him.
Maybe not. What if Ozil still had working? If he was still
maybe him.
But
to go back to my point, I think with Messi, that role he has, it's a very niche role that not many people can afford to have, that sort of free role that he had at Argentina. I get he is my GOAT, just to confirm. He's had an insane career up until now. He went up to that World Cup and he had 10, not teammates, 10 people playing for him. Everything was set up for him, and considering the position he was in, like, their games weren't clean at all. I think the tactics were very set up that everyone else was like, their game, they didn't really comfortably go through any games. They didn't really look like a convincingly good side.
They won
throughout the whole tournament, which obviously not every team does, but I wouldn't say there was one game in the whole knockout stage that they weren't close to going out. Like, even against Australia, they almost fumbled it. I mean,
who scored in that game?
Who
scored in that game again?
Yeah, okay, but then ask me, when you take away the penalty goals, you've got to ask, like, considering what it's built out to be, like, how are you having so little impact? He had the exact same.
He didn't have little impact.
How are you having so little impact away from those penalties?
It wasn't little impact.
Because anyone could just ping balls in behind.
He was their top goal scorer and their top assist
on...
maker. How is that little impact?
He said behind the penalties.
Okay, so
because that's an absurd. Who's getting 4 penalties at a World Cup?
Without the penalties, he's their top assist maker. Then, so how is that the littlest impact?
With, like,
he assisted 3 of Alvarez's 5 goals. He assisted 3 of Alvarez's 5 goals.
Okay, I'll go. Messi's not on the pitch.
Okay, let's say you take away Messi's penalties, take away Alvarez's goals that Messi didn't assist. He has 2. It's the same fucking thing.
Okay, for that, it's based on everything. And then his season at PSG, he had an awful season at PSG last year.
It
wasn't top 30 for Ballon d'Or, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
that is an interesting point. He wasn't top 30 in the Ballon d'Or, and then he obviously had the World Cup. Fairs. That is the biggest stage of football.
I thought you said you don't take last year into account, though. It's just based. I thought you said yours is just based on this year.
I said a 2-year rolling basis.
So based on this year, he's not a top 10 player. In considering we had a World Cup this year, he's not a top 10 player in the world.
No, just because the whole his trajectory is not. I don't think, other than that World Cup, I think that was very against.
The best player in the World Cup is not a top 10 player in the world.
I'd say the best player that won the World Cup. I wouldn't say he's the best player at the World Cup.
Who was the best player at the World Cup?
You could say, I don't think it's coincidence that every year apparently the best player at the World Cup plays for the team that won the World Cup. I think that's just naturally
who was the best player at the World Cup?
I think Mbappe was the best player at the World Cup.
In a number 1.
Who do you think was the best player at the World Cup, Dodzi?
I think Mbappe was also.
You think he was the best player at the World Cup?
Yeah, I think Mbappe was.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Messi and Mbappe are the best. It's 1 and 2 between them two. I just think.
What were the SOFA score ratings?
Oh, Messi's SOFA score rating in the World Cup was 7.95. Mbappe's. I'll get up in a bit.
Yeah.
okay.
Kylian Mbappe, Lottin, #1, the best player in the world currently playing right now. 8 goals, 2 assists in the World Cup, hat trick in the final. One of the best World Cup moments ever he gave us with that hat trick. 202 goals for PSG. He's just turned PSG's all-time leading scorer, which is crazy because, I mean, he only joined PSG the other day.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
31 goals in all competitions for PSG this season. A league champion 5 times so far. He's on course to win it for the 6th time this season. And he came second the FIFA Best Award. What's a bit interesting, I will say, with Mbappe, though, obviously I'm a big Mbappe fan. But yeah, his best ever Ballon d'Or campaign was 2018. I wouldn't even say that's the best of Mbappe. It's just when he won the World Cup. He came 4th. He's never actually come close yet to win the Ballon d'Or. And he hasn't really come that close to winning the Champions League. But I think, for me, he is #1 man at PSG, ahead of #2 player in this list. I think he right now is, if you give him... We're talking ability at their best. Current players, Mbappe is the hardest player to stop right now in world football. Yes, he might not have the dribbling ability that Messi has or Neymar, but can you stop his pace in behind? Can you stop his finishing ability? No, I don't think you can. He is in danger, though, of not fulfilling his career potential if he doesn't leave PSG soon. He's got 1 more year max with them. He's just signed a bumper deal. He should probably, even if he's been cutthroat, should leave this season.
Where's he going though?
Where's he going? Real Madrid, the Mecca of football.
So where does Vinny go? On the right?
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. But I think, what do you do? Put Mbappe on the right, I think. Yeah.
Put Mbappe on the right?
Yeah, because I think Mbappe can play right wing. That's the thing. He played there for France.
I don't think it optimises his potential playing on the right. And I think if he goes to Madrid, he's saying to Madrid, I'm playing striker, I'm playing left, or I'm not coming. I think he's at that point in his...
I don't think he's in the position to say that.
I think he's in a position to say that.
Or it depends what he wants, but obviously, yeah, man's getting fat stacks.
I think he's in a position to say that. And
because it seemed like the golden opportunity for him to leave was last year. But yeah, he needs to...
It's interesting, right? Because if this Qatari takeover of Man United happens and obviously his contract runs out with PSG, United might be in a position where they can say to Mbappe, we can pay you the same as what PSG were paying you, and there's a sporting project there. Whereas I don't think Madrid are the type of club anymore to turn around and say to him, we're giving you 650 grand a week. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think many clubs are. I think they're realising it's stupid. Yeah, they are realising it's stupid. But I feel like if there's a Arab state takeover of United, I feel like they're probably stupid enough to do it.
Even like City's owned by an Arab state, and they don't have any crazy wages.
I think Haaland's was made up because of the bonus payments. He got the 20 million at the beginning, didn't he? So his wage is probably like 350,000, but then the 20 million he got made up for the salary. So they've done it in quite a clever way. Yeah, well, we'll see.
Mbappe to be first,
I'm happy. I had him second, but honestly, I'm fine with him being first. He probably is the best player in the world. But listen, man, got back my boy. So yeah, I'm happy for Mbappe to be first. I think that's more than fair, and it's the result I expected.
Yeah, I think he was quite clear in terms of first. 102 points. Messi got 85 points. Benzema's third in 67. We can go through, obviously off camera, we can go through the rest of the list, but just to run through the top 10. 10th place was Salah, 9th place was Lewandowski, 8th place Modric, Neymar was 7th place, Vinicius Jr. 6th, Haaland 5th, De Bruyne 4th, Karim Benzema 3rd, Leo Messi still 2nd, and Mbappe 1st. Is that a good list? Yeah, Keelan.
Yeah, so I'd say Messi's the only one who I don't think would have been on that list if it was done a year ago.
Okay.
But yeah,
before the World Cup.
Yeah.
But was Saka 10th? Oh no, he was 11th, wasn't he?
I think decent list. I'd like to see a few more players from this season on there because a lot of the probably 10 none of the top 10 most informed players this season are really on there. But yeah, like a decent list.
I think when you're talking about the best player in the world, though, I think the consistency is a huge thing, and obviously it's not their fault because a lot of them are young, but we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them be consistent.
If they're not doing that great this year, it's not consistency. Like, someone like Benzema.
For me, you can't give someone who's just done it for one season the title of one of the best players in the world. Personally, I think if you're saying like on form, they're performing at a level where they're the best player in the world this season. Yes, but for me, the best player in the world, you have to be consistent and you have to do it over a number of years. Which is why people are obviously hesitant to say Saka's the best right winger in the world or the best winger in the world, or people are hesitant to say Saliba's the best centre back in the Prem, or etc. Because all hasn't been said and done yet.
Yeah, I think for you to do it one season, you've got to do something extraordinary. For me, that's what Kvara's done, and that's what Osimhen's done. So if they're in the top 10, I'm not that mad. Because they're doing something for their club, which is
Vinicius Junior done.
Vinicius Junior done it as well.
Yeah.
Everyone else not quite. Saka's close, but not quite.
Yeah, Saka's on the fringes of doing that.
Yeah, I think next year if we do this list, Saka potentially on the list. I think Rashford potentially on the list if he continues. Kvara, Osimhen, certain years if they continue. Who knows with Phil Foden? He's obviously got bags of potential, but will he make the list? I don't know. Jude Bellingham, Pedri, definitely on the list.
Pedri,
Gavi,
it's hard for Pedri to not be on there.
Yeah, it's harsh for Pedri because, I mean, it's best Spanish player, we've said it.
Yeah.
But not quite on the list. That's it, man. The top 10. Is there any more things you guys want to air out before we close?
No. Do you know what it is? Because KDB wasn't on my list, I thought he wasn't going to be on the list. Yeah. So then I was going to mention, is he on the... But then obviously I waited when he got to third and I was like, okay. Yeah. He's way higher than I thought he would be. Yeah. The third best player in the world. That's crazy. Four.
Similar
fifth.
Similar style to Messi, to be fair.
Benzema was third. KDB
he was fourth,
and Haaland was fifth.
Yeah.
I'm shocked he was fourth. I expected him to be top 10, but
similar player to Messi in terms of style. His style at Man City is quite similar to Messi's at the World Cup.
No, no, it's not.
I think
no,
it's
not.
You've got dribbling on Messi, but apart from that,
He's got dribbling on Messi.
Just picking, it's just chilling, jamming on the ball and picking passes, like a very slow game.
No,
in transition.
No, because De Bruyne, most of the time when De Bruyne has the ball, he rarely takes more than 2 touches. It's normally, whereas Messi a lot of the time was getting on the ball, dragging opposition out, picking part. It's very different. I don't ever see De Bruyne really dribble.
But I think in terms of playing, I think Odegaard's coming for the best playmaker spot in the Prem. So he might even, who knows, in a year's time, he might even be on the list.
Do you think it's harsh on? I know Odegaard. This level is obviously like this season has been better, but do you think it's harsh on Bruno to have Odegaard over him, considering Bruno's obviously now done it over a number of seasons, and this year he's still got in all comps over 10 goals and over 10 assists.
Yeah, you can say it's harsh. You can, objectively speaking, just looking at the pure numbers, it's harsh. But looking at the players, it's not. And
Bruno
harsh,
could come away from the season with 3 trophies.
I don't think Bruno personally helps himself.
He's petulant
in his style.
He's petulant.
He's not a likeable player, and he just does do questionable things, which makes you sort of discredit him a bit more.
He's very petulant.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally think Odegaard took a while to grow on me, by the way. But when he grew on, like, wow, I think he's
he's exceptional. He is.
But that's it. If you've made it to the end of this podcast, thank you. Give this one a like, give this one a share, give this one a comment. We can't wait to drop this to you guys. This has been really fun. We love doing these top 10s. And if you've got any suggestions of top 10s we should do, please let us know. We're going to be doing more of these in terms of weeks and months and days to come. Thank you, Louie. Thank you, Keelan, for coming on. It's been great.
Pleasure
it's
been
as always. Great debates. And until next time, it's been the Streets Won't Forget podcast, and we're out. Take care. Peace.